Wow. One Piece chapter 1058. So I'm not gonna lie to you, this makes a lot more sense now, because I was wondering how in the world could Buggy get Crocodile and Mihawk with them, and this makes sense. I like the fact that a majority of this chapter focused around that. I like how Oda kind of just basically had it where Mihawk and Crocodile came to the conclusion that Buggy is a valuable pawn. And I really think one of the first videos I do when I get caught up is gonna be the fact that like Buggy might end up being the one that gets credit for being the king of the pirates, and Buggy might end up being the one that gets credited for that, when in reality it's going to be Luffy. And it's going to be one of those things where it's hilarious, and I think Luffy is going to be in a situation where Buggy might take the brunt of some of the bad aspects of that. That's going to be interesting if Oda goes that route. I could see him trolling enough to actually do it. However, let's back things up and get into the recap portion, because dude, there's a lot going on in this chapter. It isn't just on the story behind how Cross Guild was founded. You also got Nami ripping into Luffy and that foreshadowing that has to deal with the Supreme King Haki, as well as what's going on with the Revolutionary Army. So the chapter opens up where you got the Thousand Sunny and it's fleeing away from Wano, and Luffy has been beaten to high hell by Nami. Nami's just ripping into him, saying like, hey, you almost got our whole team completely wiped out because of what you've done. And when Jinbei tries to tell Nami like, hey, we still survived, Nami unloads him, and Jinbei's like, wait a second, is this Supreme King Haki? So it's one of those things where this feels like obviously a gag. You got hot-tempered Nami. However, at the same time, when you really look at it, Nami might actually have Supreme King Haki. And the reason for this, and I'm kind of grasping at straws here, but I think that Oda has shown, like when it comes to foreshadowing, what he's done with covers and everything, that you can't necessarily discount it. You know, Nami multiple times has been shown with a crown, just like how Luffy has, and Luffy has Supreme King Haki. So it could be one of those things where he could be teasing that, or he could be kind of setting the stage to really piss off a lot of people and basically do the whole Nami-Luffy pairing. However, I think that's more so for Supreme King Haki. And I think that'd be interesting because, you know, Zoro's already been kind of hinted at having it. So having three in the same crew would be absolutely nuts. And what I like about this is that as they're going through and they're doing all their arguing, you have Robin, she goes ahead and she pays for the paper. And we find out about the bounties of all the Straw Hats. And you guys know, like, I trolled Nico Robin, but I'm gonna keep it real with you. The fact that Robin's bounty isn't at $1 billion, I feel personally insulted by this. Robin should be in that $1 billion category, because when you really sit down and you look at it, between her devil fruit as well as her reputation, the fact that she's worked with Crocodile in the past, and she's the only person right now that we know of that can actually read the poneglyphs, and she's wanted by the world government in this sense. Like, she should be in that billion berry bounty category. That's a disservice. That's a huge disservice right there. I know that, you know, obviously once, you know, some more battles take place, she's probably going to get bumped up more, but I felt personally dishonored and I felt personally attacked by that. Again, I'm not the biggest Nico Robin fan, but I felt attacked by it. Now, Nami's at 366 billion. Nami's at 366 million. You got Chopper with only 1,000 berries, which is absolutely hilarious. Because like if you get like a pirate hunter or something and they think like, oh yeah, I can get this be really easy, then Chopper just goes in that monster transformation to getting yeeted. You got Brook with 383 berries. You got Brook with 383 million berries. You got Frankie with 394 billion. You got Frankie with 394 million berries. You got Usopp with 500 million berries, which I think that's about accurate for Usopp, because Usopp has really grown stronger, and because of his skill as a sniper as well as Usopp's tall tales that he tells, that makes sense for him to be at $500 million. And I like the fact that Usopp is just sitting there like, oh my god, stop the count, stop the count, stop the count. Absolutely hilarious. I love whenever we get Usopp's reactions to his bounties. And I like the fact that like Sanji fans are in the mud right now. Sanji fans are in the mud because like Sanji has the 4th highest out of this group. Jinbei just joined and Jinbei's got a higher bounty than him, and Zoro's like, hey, who cares what 4th place thinks? And you see Sanji and Zoro just going into it. Zoro is such a fucking troll, man. I love Zoro for that reason, man. Like, I kind of shift between like who my favorite Straw Hat is. You guys know that, but like shit like this is why like when I see Zoro, I absolutely just start laughing my butt off, man. Cause like Zoro never misses the opportunity to take a dig at Sanji. It's like if there's a stray bullet for Sanji, Zoro's probably one that fires it. All right, man. So we then shift over and we start getting the information on how Crossgill was founded, and you see how Buggy is essentially getting threatened with being killed by Crocodile and by Mihawk because they're like, dude, we're being marketed as your underlings. You got to be behind this. And we get the flashback where Mihawk is like, the Navy is surrounding my island right now. Like, dude, like, I got to move base. And Crocodile says, like, why don't we just join forces together? If we join forces, it'll be one of those things where even the world government has to take notice. Very smart by Crocodile on that end. And at least a moment where Crocodile ends up just taking out a bunch of people in the Navy, and Buggy realizes that Crocodile's come to collect the money that he's loaned him. And by the time Buggy tries to leave, Crocodile's already cornered him, and Buggy is able to talk his way into Crocodile, allowing him to actually serve his organization. And this leads to this hilarious moment where Navy HQ, those idiots, completely dropped the ball because they start talking about the Impel Down breakout and how Buggy was the ringleader of it. And they start talking about, like, rightfully that Buggy was on Gold Roger's ship and how Buggy was a crewmate for Shanks, one of the four emperors. And now they're using the Cross Guild poster as a way to actually say that Buggy was the ringleader for it. And the fact that he has two very powerful former warlords actually working underneath him, it becomes one of those things where you can see how they jumped that conclusion and gave him as high of a bounty as he got. And what we see here is that Crocodile and Mihawk get to the conclusion eventually that they can let Buggy be the figurehead, even though it's embarrassing. But the moment Buggy outlives his usefulness, they can just go ahead and kill him. But for right now, it takes the attention off of them directly. And instead, people are focusing on Buggy. And that's smart because it allows them a certain level of freedom that they wouldn't necessarily have. Right now, they definitely have a lot of heat just because of what it is that they're doing, but a brunt of that heat's going to actually be carried by Buggy. And because so many people have actually bought into the lie and the world government is actually pushing that lie, it's something where they can work to their advantage. And it also works with the whole thing of like setting up the puppet master thing and also concealing your intentions. It keeps the Navy off guard. However, we then shift over and we find out that Sabo is actually okay, but what we find out too is that Dragon is not happy. He says that Sabo might be fine, but if he really did kill King Cobra, there's going to be a reckoning between the two of them no matter what happens. And at least a moment where Cobra ends up, and at least a moment where Dragon ends up talking to Kuma, and that's where we shift over and we see Sabo has finally reached out and broken the silence, and Sabo is getting ready to talk and the world government is actually listening. So I'm gonna be very curious to see just what Sabo says and what Oda's cooking up here. So my chapter question to you guys is, do you guys think that Crocodile and Mihawk made the right idea, made the right choice by having Buggy be the one who is thrust into the public spotlight?